Star Wars Battlefront 2. A few days ago the gaming world got to see exactly what DICE, Motive and Criterion have been working on for the sequel of the reboot. The first game was undoubtedly a beautiful and faithful recreation of what makes Star Wars, with an unprecedented attention to detail, stellar graphics and sound design. Whilst it was a fun arcade shooter accessible for even novice gamers, its lack of content, depth and player-base splitting DLC model stifled the longevity of the game, and although it sold exceptionally well, it did not retain its player base well, especially on PC. Admittedly, by end of life the game was significantly different to when it launched, with many of the community requested features added into the game and a wealth of paid for DLC content. The sequel, however, promises to deliver much more from the initial launch of the game, but what exactly is that, and will it be enough to bring back those players who felt burnt by the casual, accessible nature of the first game? Let's take a look. So I was lucky enough to attend Star Wars Celebration in Orlando at the weekend and be in the panel when the game was revealed. Plenty of details were outlined there, but it was in a private behind the scenes Q&A session with the developers that we got to ask our own questions and learnt about the more intricate details of the game design for multiplayer, the specifics and exactly how that is going to add the depth and breadth to the game that they kept on talking about. So forget all of the fluff, this is what I know about the game as it stands. Gunplay, one of the most important features in a shooter. DICE told us that gunplay has been refined. The weapons, although they are still blasters rather than rifles, they will have more deviation and be harder to master rather than the hold mouse 1 simplicity from the first game, and there will be a difference between shooting in first and third person. Also between hipfire and ADS, giving players who choose to play in first person a benefit. Blaster customization is coming too, no idea on what exactly this is yet, but I'm guessing sights and weapon mods that adjust the characteristics of the weapons. Basically they said you can customize your blaster to change your playstyle. Moving on, the game is switching to a class-based system for trooper classes, so most of the time in the game will be spent playing as one of those 4 classes: Officer, Assault, Heavy and Specialist. No details on exactly what each class has to offer, but you can take a good guess from the titles. And classes will be upgradable and have progression too. So how do you want your trooper to play? What abilities do they have? Do you want to upgrade a certain ability more than another one, for example? Squads were mentioned too, but no specifics. Also, considering that Battlefront 2 will span across all of the Star Wars eras, troopers will be different depending on what level you're playing on. So say you're on a Clone Wars era map, one of the standard troopers will be the Roger B1 battle droid. The jump pack is now going to be class specific as well, so not everyone will take that option, as it was an obvious no-brainer in the first game. Heroes, how do they work? Well, no longer based on a pickup system, instead your performance will add to your chance of becoming a hero, so better players are rewarded and will play as heroes more often. Heroes will be much more physical on the battlefield now and have a much bigger entrance, a massive moment in the game like, oh god, Kylo Ren is here, we're all doomed, kind of thing. Lightsaber Combat has changed into something a lot more physical, they used that word a few times, and hero abilities will have a bigger punch to them too. For example, what happens when Darth Vader force pushes someone, not only the reaction to his victims, but what happens to Vader himself when he does that. And much like the troopers, heroes can be upgraded and customized to suit your playstyle with hero ability modifiers and upgrades. How about vehicles? Again, this is moving away from a pickup system. You won't just find a TIE Fighter or X-Wing token on the ground and disappear into the air. It sounds like Battlefront 2 is moving to a BF1 style system where you'll pick a vehicle from the spawn screen and then just start in it. Can you land it and get out? No, you can't, but you can escape a vehicle in a very similar way that you could in Battlefront 1. Rideable tauntauns and other creatures will make it into the game, but I think that they might make an exception for those where they're kind of on the battlefield and you can hop on them and hop off, much like the horses in Battlefield 1. Continuing the trend, vehicles and starfighters can also be upgraded and customized to suit your playstyle and add to the progression in the game. DICE said that they want players to unlock new things for a very long time to keep them playing. Loads of progression here. Hero ships like Slave 1 and the Millennium Falcon can also be upgraded and modified to suit your wants and needs. No exact details of how all these ships will handle though. They were very basic in Battlefront 1, but this time around Criterion are the dev team focusing on the space battles and starfighter combat, and they did an excellent job with the VR mission and Endor mission that they created for the first game, so I'm confident that there will be more depth and skill to the vehicle combat and flying in the game. They told us that starfighters will have unique handling characteristics and space battles will be more than just TDM in space and you'll be taking down capital ships. Oh, also the Vulture droid has been confirmed too. The thermal imploder is back, of course it is, why would they get rid of it? But let's hope that grenade spam isn't as bad as it was when Battlefront 1 launched. Star cards might make a return in some form, but with a class-based system, I doubt that they're going to be prominent. Dynamic battles in multiplayer is a focus for DICE. So that means stuff like changing weather in all of the maps and big Levolution style events. How about destruction? Well, there will be some stuff that blows up of course, but we won't see the kind of dynamic destruction that we see in Battlefield games. DICE don't think that that fits well in the Star Wars fantasy and universe. Season Pass? Well, there's some confusion and various reports about this. Officially, EA and DICE haven't confirmed that there is or isn't a Season Pass, but it's worth noting that there isn't a Season Pass version of the game available for pre-order, and the pre-order bonuses are hero skins, blasters and modifiers, but that doesn't mean that the Season Pass version couldn't come later on. However, in the private Q&A session that we had, they told us that they listened to the community and don't want to split them up in the new game and are working on something new and interesting that they think is best for the game, carrying on that not splitting the player base philosophy into new content. And what that says to me is that all maps will be free, which is really how it should be, but other content perhaps like skills, weapons, ability modifiers, maybe even heroes will be locked behind a paywall or bought with game currency. I doubt that we'll see paid for maps in Battlefront 2, and if we do, I'd be very surprised. Emotes will return so you can all chase me around doing that stupid electricity thing. The game will have dedicated servers, definitely, but it's too early to talk about private servers and a server browser. In terms of game modes, we will still get the big 40-player game modes which have all of the Star Wars craziness, but DICE are working on many much more smaller mission-based multiplayer modes too, so we're talking more than just TDM here for small-scale game modes and more going on a mission with an objective style gameplay for smaller player numbers, which I think is going to be very welcome indeed. The game of course is across multiple Star Wars eras, so we're talking prequel, original trilogy and Force Awakens and forward. That means way more heroes and villains to play as. Darth Maul, Yoda, Luke, Rey, Kylo Ren, Chewbacca, General Grievous, etc, etc. Does that mean that we'll see cross-era play? Well, not confirmed yet. DICE said it's something that they are looking into and are not ruling it out, but I doubt that Disney would ever sign off on it realistically. And with multiple eras comes way more locations to play on. Some of them that have been confirmed are the following: Endor, Hoth, Kamino, Starkiller Base, Death Star, Yavin, Jakku, Theed, Mos Eisley Tatooine and a new Imperial planet called Vardos. And I think that's about all of the detailed multiplayer information that I have for you now. We'll get to see some proper gameplay at EA Play though apparently, so hopefully I can bring you guys some first-hand capture and gameplay impressions from that. In terms of multiplayer, from what DICE are saying, it looks like there's a load more content and depth here than the first game had, and most of the wants from the community have been addressed, things like upgradable, modifiable classes, skill-based gunplay with weapon customization, and space battles will be in the game, and of course the deeper, more physical hero combat and upgrades sounds very interesting to me. However, remember, let's not get too hyped up here. The proof is in the pudding, so I'd wait until you get a chance to play the game in open beta before you make your mind up and decide if there is enough there for a purchase. And you know what, I really hope that DICE have moved far enough away from the super accessible nature of the first game, and they've done enough to bring back the core gamers that want more depth in their Battlefront games. Also, the season pass thing, if the rumours are true and there is no season pass, then that's a brilliant selling point for the game right there. Now then, in terms of single player, it sounds pretty cool to be honest, and the SP portion is being handled by Motive. You'll play as a new character, Iden Versio, who's a Spec Ops stormtrooper in a squad called Inferno Squadron, and during the campaign you'll get to see what happened during the 30 years from the Return of the Jedi when the second Death Star exploded, all the way up to The Force Awakens, from the perspective of someone who's dedicated to the Empire and wants to continue to crush the rebellion on the Empire's orders. Apparently you'll also get to play as some heroes and more iconic characters during the single player campaign. Luke Skywalker and Kylo Ren are confirmed. The most exciting thing about the single player campaign to me though is that it's being written by Walt Williams and Mitch Dyer, Walt Williams being the man responsible for the Spec Ops The Line single player campaign, which was adult, moving and just very good. It's going to be very interesting how he's going to bring that kind of tone to a Star Wars game. The single player will have a progression system, weapons customization too, similar to what's available in multiplayer, and with open sandbox style fighting alongside your elite squad with infantry, air and ground vehicle combat. The story will be canon too, so it will fill in a lot of blanks in the Star Wars universe. Offline split screen co-op will also make a return for consoles only and will be different from the first game. The campaign, however, cannot be played in co-op. And that's about all I know right now. I wanted to get across all of the facts for you guys, everything that I heard at Star Wars Celebration, so there it is. Make of it what you will. Let me know your thoughts on the new game down in the comments below. Are you excited for Battlefront 2 considering the amount of content and depth that it's promising to offer, or will this be a pass for you? Let me know. As always, thank you so much for watching guys. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, a thumbs down if you didn't, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.